excuse me. We'll now call the Plan Commission meeting of June 8th, 2021 to order. Roll call, please.
Anna here.
Sullivan here.
Willow here.
Clark here. Kava chair. Kuzikowski here. Holdani here.
Secret here.
Here.
Okay, did you pick up on Commissioner Chandler? Excellent. We do not need to do video conferencing, correct? The announcement? Okay. That will get us to approval of minutes of May 25th, 2021. Has everybody had a chance to review them? No corrections, errors, questions, discussion? We'll look for a motion.
There was one typo, but we can change that.
Secret moves to approve the minutes of May 25th, 2021.
Kuzikowski will second with the typo.
Roll call.
Hannah abstains.
Sullivan, yay.
Willow, aye.
Clark, aye.
Kava aye.
Kuzikowski, aye.
Holdani, aye.
Secret aye.
Chandler, aye.
That will get us to significant common council actions.
Council approved the following: an ordinance amending the official map for a portion of the northwest quarter and southwest quarter of the southeast quarter of section 30, which is the mapped unimproved right-of-way affecting the properties at 9970, 10,020, and 10,040 South 20th Street. An ordinance approving a conditional use permit amendment for solar energy collectors on the property at 6665 South Howell Avenue. Held action on an ordinance approving a conditional use permit amendment to allow 24/7 operations on a portion of the property at 561 West College Avenue. That will be presented for council review at the next council meeting. Also approved a certified survey map submitted by Mike Faber, Creek 2 Land LLC, for the properties at 9955 South 13th Street and 9925 South Stern Street. Also approved the tax incremental district number 13 finance development agreement between the city of Oak Creek and F Street OCLV LLC. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Any discussion on the actions? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to Board of Housing and Zoning Appeal actions. Carrie? That's a none. All right. Then that gets us to our quarterly Parks, Recreation, Forestry Commission actions, which will be presented on the 13th. Okay. That gets us to our first public hearing, and that is a sign appeal. Proposed sign appeal by Prodigy Lighting and Sign, the Love's Travel Stop and Country Store. So, Laura, you going to read that in the public record?
Yes, I will.
I'm getting the hang of this stuff.
Yeah, you're getting good at this. City of Oak Creek, notice of public hearing before the Plan Commission. This meeting will be held both in person and by video conference. Persons wishing to participate in the video conference must register via the website prior to the meeting. The video conference will begin at 5:55 p.m. to allow participants to log in. Persons who wish to view the meeting live without participating may visit the City of Oak Creek YouTube page via the website. Persons requiring other reasonable accommodations may contact the city at 414-766-7000. Requests should be made as far in advance as possible, preferably a minimum of 48 hours. This is a public hearing for a sign appeal, which will be held June 8th, 2021 at 6 p.m. in the Common Council chambers and Zoom. The appellant is Wayne Palmer from Prodigy Lighting and Signs. Tax key number is 904-9000001. Property location is 9650 South 20th Street. This request is for variances from section 17.0706I3, which states that gasoline and or service stations may provide one ground or pole sign displaying the name of the station and the brand and price of gasoline sold. One wall sign per street frontage may also be provided. If granted, the variances would allow the applicant to install 4 wall signs on the diesel pump canopy and 4 wall signs on the gas pump canopy. The zoning of this property is B4 PUD, Highway Business District Plan Unit Development. All interested persons wishing to be heard are invited to be present. Dated this day, the 11th of May, 2021. Plan Commission, City of Oak Creek, Wisconsin. Mayor Dan Bukevich, Chairman. This is a public hearing. All those wishing to speak, please step up to the podium, or for those participating remotely, press star 9 on your phone to notify the moderator that you'd like to be unmuted. Please state your name and address for the record and address all questions and comments to the Plan Commission. This hearing is now open.
Thank you, Lori. This is the first call, and we have our first contestant here.
I am Wayne. That's pretty good. I'm Wayne Palmer. I'm from Prodigy Sign, Kenosha, Wisconsin. I represent Loves Incorporated.
Excellent. Anything you'd like to state before we eventually wind up the questions with the commission?
A question that Carrie might be able to help me with is, do they consider the canopy faces as a sign, or just the Loves insignias?
It would be the whole thing.
Oh, this whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It confused me because when I was reading I was going, okay.
Even if it was just color, it would still be.
Okay, that makes sense. Loves is wanting to change out the face on the canopies there are. Very close to the same look, other than they're adding the word Loves on the gas canopies on 3 locations, and would like to add the word Loves to 4 locations on the diesel canopy. Currently, it does not have the name of the station on it. It's just the look, it's the graphics. We did get a chance to look around Oak Creek, and we have other gas stations that have more than just the allowed amount. We've got Quick Trips, the Mobiles, the Meyer. The Quick Trip right over here has, across the street from Loves, has 3 building signs and has 1 on the canopy. And understanding why they would want that, because then they're getting a better view. We're not asking for large signs. The actual word Loves on the canopy is only 20 inches tall. Depending on what the commission will allow us to do, we'll go with whatever you decide. But we have another Quick Trip on 7880 South 10th. There's 2 building signs there. There is 1 canopy. Each side of the canopy does portray the word exit. The Mobile Station at 9440 South Chicago has 2 canopy signs and 1 building sign. The Myers store, the Myers gas station at 8031 South Howell, has 3 canopy signs and 1 on the building. So it seems like there's always been a little levity to how many they actually put on, because they're trying just to get their name on the buildings. It's all marketing. This is Love's standard canopy for every gas station across the nation. And they're just requesting to be allowed to do what they're showing.
Understood. Okay. Thank you very much.
Very welcome. Thank you.
We will now make the second call. Anybody wishing to speak, please approach podium on name and address. Third and final call. Anybody wishing to speak? We'll now close the public hearing and move on to item 8A, which is a consideration for that sign appeal by Wayne Palmer of Prodigy Light and Sign on behalf of Love's Truck Stop. So I'll open it up to the commission. Questions, comments? Fred, you want to, Chauncey, how about you? You're online. Let's go right to left today.
Can you hear me okay?
I think so. Yeah, I can. I don't know about the rest of the commission.
Okay.
I can hear.
I will type in my question then.
We can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
I do have a question for the applicant. If you can share details on the reason for adding the additional signage. What is the business need?
Just the reason again, the marketing aspect.
It's the existing canopy is in very poor condition. And Loves wants to go in and spend the money to make it a better looking canopy and a better looking station. All of their national marketing has the word Loves on it with a little heart. And this is what they're requesting to have put on it. Simply, it's just to change the existing Panaflex, the material on it, and take care of it and make it a better looking station so Oak Creek has a nicer station. And again, the word Loves is only 20 inches tall. out of a 3-foot tall canopy, and it's only 9 foot long. So it's not like it's gonna over show itself.
And another question, Lori, can you show where these love signs will be on the canopy?
Sure, they will be located on both canopies that are present on the property. And you can see those in your drawings too that were attached to your packet.
Okay, thank you. Oh, my
And
apologies.
as the gentleman said, that the sign itself the Love's logo is relatively small in comparison to the canopy. So it's
28
not too-
inches.
Yeah. And I'd also like to point out too that this is pretty common practice. Most gas stations have come through here for asking for variances in the past for this, and we have granted it.
For the input, Laurie.
And then one additional question for the applicant. On one of the canopies, you're looking for 4 sides, loves on each side, and 1 on 3. Can you provide a little more information on why the difference?
No, Chauncey, there's 4 on each.
Oh, it's 4. Okay.
Yep, 1 for each elevation.
Thank you.
Okay. Fred?
I don't see any real problem. If you look at it now, the canopies are already painted. They are kind of sad looking right now. They need to be touched up. But all you're really adding is the word love. And I think that's what we should concentrate on. And that's all you
All you
need.
need. That's what I've been told.
So you already have it. And it's all set up. So really, I think the only thing that would be, to me, would be the term love to add to the canopy. Now, you may want to repaint the canopies.
There's actually all new material
Okay,
going on the canopy. The gas canopy itself has a product called Panaflex, and it's a flexible face because that is illuminated from behind with LED lighting. The diesel canopy will have a product called ACM. It's a metal, corrugated metal that will just have vinyl on it all the way around. But it essentially, if you were to look at it, unless you were staring at both of them together, it's really hard to tell the difference in the two.
is this also illuminated on the canopy?
Not on the diesel canopy,
But
only on the gas canopy. And again, that is a flex material that light shines through, and the illumination is inside the canopy shining out.
It's backlit.
My honest opinion, I don't see any problem. I'm just really thinking of just putting up the term love. If you left that off, you'd have no.
It would be like for like.
Right, you'd have no problem, but I think I don't see any problem with it. That's my opinion.
Great, thanks, Fred. Don?
Nope, I have no problems with this.
Chris?
This is my district. I actually was there yesterday looking at everything in totality, and I think that this would be a welcome change. There's certainly some cleanup and some work that needs some TLC for the whole area, so they'd be welcome from my perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Greg?
I have no issues with this. As the other commissioner said, it's pretty much the exact same thing, just adding the word loves to the 4 sides, so no issues.
Dawn?
Nothing for me.
Matt?
Nothing.
Christine?
Nothing here.
Nothing for me either. I think it's an improvement. So, and again, it's pretty standard. It's expected. So it's good to me. With that being said, we'll look for a motion on 8A, please.
Guzekowski will make a motion. Hold on here. Yes. Guzekowski, go ahead.
Oh, good.
Further down.
Second page.
There, got it. Guzekowski will make a motion that the Plan Commission approve sign variances allowing the installation of 4 illuminated wall signs on a diesel canopy two 30 foot by 10 inch by 36 inches. One, do we have to read them all? Yes, okay. One, 223 by 6 by 36, and one 231 by 31 feet by 9 inches by 36, and then 4 illuminated wall signs on the gas canopy. 2 37 foot by 9 inches and by 36, and 2 90 by 90 feet by 5 inches by 36 on the west side of the multi-tenant building located at 9650 South 20th Street.
Oracle second.
Roll call.
And aye.
Sullivan, aye.
Willow, aye.
Clark, aye.
Bekavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Bedani, aye. Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, folks. It's been a pleasure.
That will get us to 8B, as a review a request submitted by Anna Kransno-Sharp. Oh boy, and I'm a Polak to boot. Kransno-Sharp. I can't get the rhythm of it. For Fred Astaire's Dance Studio to rezone the property at 2121 East Rawson from B2 Community Business to B3 Office. Carrie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a request to rezone the property. There is a conditional use permit that is attached to the property. It will be unaffected by this request. This is the site of a former financial institution, and they are proposing to convert it to a dance studio. Unfortunately, the way that our code is currently written, dance studios are specifically mentioned in the B3 district and nowhere else. So even though this seems to fit with the area, especially considering it's a commercial area, we do need a rezone. And part of the proposal will include enclosing the existing drive-through lanes that were used for the financial institution. That's next on the agenda for Plan Commission consideration. And for your edification, there would be up to 5 dance instructors on site at any given time. So parcels in the area are currently zoned for B2 and a PUD. That would be the Tower Square Shopping Center that kind of surrounds this property. B4 to the west, there's a multi-tenant commercial building, and RS4, which is across the street. That's Rawson Village and Rawson Village Estates. Extended area includes B2 with a conditional use to the northeast, RS4 to the east, RD1 to the south, and RM1, which is a PUD for Camelot Trails condos, and A1 to the southwest, and then LM1 to the far west. So this is in a commercial corridor area, and the purpose and intent of the B3 district seems to fit with what they want to do. It also fits with the financial institution former use. So the comprehensive plan identifies this for exactly what we're asking the Plan Commission to consider at this time. There is a suggested motion for approval on the screen. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Is the applicant with us by chance, representative? Come on up, please. Great. Is there anything you'd like to say? Our name and address.
Yeah, my name is Doug Fortin. I'm not the applicant. I'm a representative of theirs,
Okay.
with Design to Construct, their contractor. Yeah, they're basically looking to take over this building to do ballroom dancing lessons, salsa dancing lessons, things of that nature. They're going to be enclosing the former drive-through. That's the primary reason we're in front of you tonight, to add a little bit more square footage so that they have a little bit more room to hold these dance sessions. Yeah,
Thank you
so
very
if
much.
you have any more questions,
Great, thank you
Happy to
very
take
much. This time, I guess Carrie, any commentary? Nothing? Christine, you want to start us out? Any questions?
Oh, I don't have any questions.
Matt?
No.
Don?
Nothing from me.
Greg?
I don't know if this is Lori or Carrie, but is there, With the change in zone, is there parking requirement changes along with this?
That as part of the rezone, we will talk about that as part of the plan review, but I will give you a heads up that they have plenty of parking.
Okay, thank you.
Chris?
Nothing for me.
Don?
Nothing for me either.
Fred?
No, I just think it's a good idea to utilize an empty building that we have. So I'm for it. I think it's a good idea.
I agree with Fred. It's a good use of a building that's being underutilized. Looks like they're going to enhance the landscaping a little bit. No, it's going to remain unchanged. Hopefully they'll clean it up a little bit. But no, I do think it is a good use of the property. And, you know, we've actually kind of done similar things in M1 districts to do daycares and things of that nature in the past. So we've rezoned other things to fit vacant buildings, haven't we, Carrie?
Yes, we have it. It's usually dependent on the use, whether or not it needs a conditional use, whether it needs a rezone, whether it needs any other kind of review.
So, thank you. Other than that, I have no problems. So, somebody'd like the motion.
Different moves that the planning commission recommends to the common council that the property at 2121 East Rawson Avenue be rezoned from B2 community business to B3 office and professional business. No change to existing CUP after a public hearing.
Anna seconds.
Before we go to vote, I'm really sorry, Commissioner Chandler. I forgot you're out there in the video world on us. Do you have any questions or comments before we vote?
No questions.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
Thank you. My apologies. Thanks for the reminder, Chris. Appreciate it. Start with the vote, starting with Commissioner Sullivan this time. How's that?
Sullivan, aye.
Rely.
Warwick, aye.
Kevich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Ladani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Anna, I.
It's everybody. Great. I will now get us to plan review, item 8C. That's review site building and related plans submitted by the Fred Astaire Dance Studio for an addition to the existing building at 2121 East Rawson. So, Carrie?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as we were discussing, this is to enclose I apologize, that's the wrong location map on here, but it is the same property. It is to enclose the existing drive-through area as an addition for studio space for the Fred Astaire Dance Studio. For those who are unfamiliar with the site, this is the existing layout. You'll see that the building is kind of in the middle of that property, and that shared drive actually serves the Tower Shopping Center that is to the immediate east of this property. The proposed site plan is showing where that enclosure is going to be. There's already a roof there, so it's kind of a covered drive-through area, and what they're going to do is match the existing to enclose that area. So this is what it would look like. This is the landscape plan. As was mentioned in the staff report, there was a previous approval for this particular property that showed additional landscaping in the corners and particularly to screen that north parking from Rawson Avenue. So staff's recommendation is wherever possible and to the greatest extent possible, we would like to have that landscaping installed to shield that parking from Rawson Avenue. Right now it's just turf. The private lessons would be, private lessons and group classes, social parties, etc., would occur between 8 and 9, 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. Again, there would be about up to 5 instructors on site at any given time. No information has been submitted as to ancillary staff, but there is adequate parking per the code, which is actually based on the financial institution. We don't actually have specific requirements for dance studios per se. We do have minimum requirements for general customer service and places of entertainment, and that's 1 stall for every 150 gross square feet of customer sales and service, plus 1 stall for every peak shift employee. So on the screen right now is the proposed floor plan, and what I kind of estimated based on where the dance studios would be and the waiting areas would be. It's about 2,100 square feet that would be accessible to the public. And that's, of course, not including restroom facilities or anything like that. So based on that, you would have to have 19 parking stalls. They're showing 23 on site. So we're satisfied with what they're showing. These are the existing elevations showing you where that drive-through is, and we'll just kind of go through them like pretty quickly. The materials that are proposed are 4-inch brick and EFIS and split-face concrete block with windows to match the existing building. Gives you an idea of the east. Again, enclosing that. Underneath the existing roof. And it'll just look like one seamless building. One note about the EFIS fascia board, it's hard to say. That will match along the top portion of the enclosure, just underneath the roof. In fact, you can see it best here. It's that white section, and then underneath the triangular portion, they're going to fill that in. As many of you know, EFIS is not listed as an acceptable primary exterior building material, and it can only be used as an accent up to 25% of the visible perimeter. However, for additions, the code does give the Plan Commission discretion to adjust this requirement. And that gives you an idea of what the southern elevation would look like once that enclosure is complete. There is a suggested motion for approval on the screen for Plan Commission consideration. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Is the applicant with us? I designed the bill. Do you have anything you want to say before we go to commission?
No, I mean, I think in general, Carrie hit it right on the head. We're just trying to match the existing to the greatest extent possible, and give the Fred Astaire Dance Studio a little bit more space. Is really all we're looking to do. Okay. So very minor as far as site work and stuff like that. Really just kind of focused around the building. There was a landscape that was mentioned. We are along the new walls of the building on the north and south. We are looking to put some plantings in front of the new addition.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
This time we'll go to the commission. We'll start with Commissioner Chandler so I don't forget her again.
I do have a question for the applicant. So since the driveway or drive-through is going away, and it looks like there may be a couple parking spaces, new parking spaces in the back, could you share some information on the lighting? Just to make sure that people can see what's going on in the back, since there's no more lighting with the drive-through.
Yeah, that's a good question. We don't have any building lights necessarily planned. And I don't have a good answer for you. I don't know if there's some pole lighting out there or not. But I agree with you 100%. We just want to make sure that people are safe, so we would certainly be able to add a light or two if necessary. I'll take a look at that.
That's my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Fred?
No questions at this time.
Okay, Don?
The only question, doesn't look like there was a plan, and I don't know if it's needed. I don't know if it's a building code, a plan for a door, an emergency exit on that. It may not even be needed. It just seemed like it would, kind of go there. Just wondering if that had ever been brought up through Planning Commission, or if it was, or I'm sorry, through staff, or if it was needed or anything like that.
That will be a state, when that goes to state for plan review. Okay. That will be something that comes up then. I don't believe that will be required with the space being as small as it is. I think 2 exits is all that's going to be required for that.
Okay.
Put down. Greg? I'm sorry, Chris.
No questions.
Greg?
No questions. Thank you.
Dawn?
Will there be signage added to the building?
It was not included in the application. There is an existing, if I can get back to that, there's an existing monument sign on the corner, but that is a question for the applicant.
Yeah, I believe any signage would come before you as a separate item. I would imagine that they probably plan on using that existing monument sign. They'll probably just repurpose that sign into something that works for them, but that would come in front of you down the road.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Matt,
I have no comments.
Christine?
Just want to make sure with number 3, where if there is any mechanical or any equipment out there that's going to be shielded.
There is none planned. There will be a small furnace that'll be installed inside in a closet.
But nothing outside.
Nothing outside.
Okay.
Maybe a small vent, like a small PVC vent, but nothing that would significantly distract from the look of the building.
That's it. Thank you.
From my point of view, I guess, Carrie, this was an existing building. I imagine they got a trash enclosure and everything, that all the good stuff that always goes along with a building that they're just going to repurpose.
Yes, there is an existing trash enclosure that's on the southwest corner that is going to remain in its current location.
Okay. And just, Assistant Chief Haley, is there anything you'd like to speak on? Anything concerning from fire's point of view?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the commission. We have no concerns. To follow up with the egress question. That is correct, that the egress calculation will be certified once it gets reviewed by the state, but no other concerns from fire.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Other than that, I have none. So if we'd like to go to a motion on 8C, please.
Donnie moves that the Plan Commission approves site and building plans submitted by, now I gotta do that, Anna Krasna-Shapaka, Fred Astaire Dance Studio for the property at 2121 East Rawson Avenue with the following conditions: that all relevant code requirements remain in effect, that the landscape plans are revised to include vegetative screening for the north parking stalls, that the plans are revised to include locations and screening for any new mechanical equipment, transformers, and utilities if applicable, that all detailed revised plans are submitted in digital format to the Department of Community Development prior to submission of permit applications.
Sleeper seconds.
Roll call, starting with Carrillo.
Bill, aye.
Mark, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Dani, aye.
Sleeper aye.
Chandler, aye.
Anna, aye.
Sullivan, aye.
Hey, thanks very much. Will get us to 8D, and that is the temporary use permit submitted by Jason Cornelius IKEA for an outdoor dining area on the property at 7500 South IKEA Way. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was originally submitted as a plan review request, and we took a chance based on the narrative that eventually was submitted and requested a specific time period. So we changed it to a temporary use permit, and I did hear back from the applicant this morning, and that is correct. They are not asking for a permanent outdoor dining area, so this turned into a temporary use permit request. The zoning is B6. It is just north of the Creekside Crossing Marketplace. Again, this is just for outdoor patio dining area on an existing patio on the west elevation of the building. And that kind of gives you an idea of where it is and how it's going to be delineated. I won't say enclosed. They're going to be using 3-foot tall, kind of this PVC vinyl type fencing to delineate where those outdoor seating areas are going to be. Egress, ingress to the building, ADA accessibility, all of that is going to be maintained. Pedestrian access will not be affected by this particular proposal. It's a relatively small area. They are proposing to have tables that can fit up to 52 people out there. During operations for the store, actually it's for operations of their existing dining facility. So 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. and they're only asking for this to be operable until the end of September. If they were to request an extension, they would have to come back to the Plan Commission. And if they want to make this permanent, they would also have to come back to the Plan Commission. They are aware of that requirement. No new exterior lighting, and it will be monitored by staff, and they do have security cameras. And with that, there is a suggested motion for approval. Mr. Mayor.
Hey, thank you, Carrie. Applicant, anybody from Kia? Maybe not tonight. Okay. Christine, you want to start us off?
Yes, I have a question actually. So those are not like bolted to the ground or anything, it's just they can move.
Yeah.
So even though you said they're gonna have cameras, but how are they gonna control? They're not gonna be everywhere and you're just gonna create a chaos.
So this is actually, they have a seating chart that's out here that's, I believe these are weighted in the bottom. The fence area, they actually have weights or sand in the bottom that'll keep them from kind of blowing over or moving, and they will be monitored by staff. They're going to assign one staff person to this outdoor dining area, and it's right off the restaurant. So all those windows, that'll be looking into this outdoor dining area, and they have security cameras on the building. So that's how that'll be monitored.
And the operations from 11
a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt?
No comments.
Dawn?
When in many times we've done this before, we were really, we found it important to make a fence or an area that somebody couldn't drive into.
So this is actually going to be off the ground. It's an elevated patio, and it's going to be set back a couple of feet from that curb. I think it's showing 5 feet off the curb.
That sounds better. Thank you.
All right, Greg?
I have no concerns, and having been there numerous times, the area that they're proposing this, I rarely ever see even foot traffic or vehicle traffic on that side of the building. Seems kind of out of the way. So I have no concern about this.
So I can also kind of comment on that, sorry. This is kind of the lesser used drive around the building. It's only one way, so people would be going south when they access this. And there's just a couple of kind of bump out parking spaces that are to the north of this. They can't park on the curb side. So it sees relatively little traffic. The only people who would end up using it probably would be deliveries or somebody who went around the building accidentally. Because there's an exit to the north of this as well.
Okay. Okay, Chris?
No comments.
Don?
No questions.
Fred?
I think it's a little small for outside dining. You've only got roughly 12 feet, they say 13, but well, I think it's pretty close to get that number of tables that they want to have in there and the chairs. But if they want to do it, that's fine.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Commissioner Chandler?
I do have a question in regards to this area being elevated. How high up will it be?
Well, it's already existing, so it's, if you kind of figure like a standard curb is what, 6 inches? So that it'll be 6 inches and then set back 5 feet from that curb.
Okay, thank you.
I really don't have any concerns with it either. That I've been there numerous times. That side of the building is not heavily traveled. Obviously, they came for a temporary use permit. They want to see how this goes over. In IKEA style, if this ever became something, I think they would come back and invest some money if they find it worth it. And, you know, given the past year, everybody was looking for different alternatives. So they're probably experimenting with this a little bit. So I'm fine with it. If there's no further questions, motion on 8D.
Clerk moves that the Plan Commission approve site and building plans submitted by Jason Cornelius, IKEA, for the property at 7500 South IKEA Way with the following conditions. Number 1, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. Number 2, that all detailed final plans are submitted in digital format to the Department of Community Development prior to submissions for permit applications. And number 3, that the temporary use permit shall expire September 30th, 2021.
Anna seconds.
Roll call, starting with Alderman Lorik.
Lorik, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Ladani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Anna, aye.
Sullivan, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Gets us to 8E, site, building, and related plans submitted by Daniel Newman, Rollin Smoke LLC for an outdoor dining area on the property at 10166 South 27th Street. Carrie.
So unlike the previous one, this is actually requesting a permanent outdoor dining area on an existing patio for this existing restaurant facility. It is in an overlay district. However, the proposed outdoor patio area is not something that we need to be concerned with in terms of specific overlay district requirements. It is on the north side of the building. Again, it is an existing patio. I kind of tried to highlight exactly where it is, although this is an old aerial photo. And on the right side of the screen is their proposed layout. It had been used in the past for outdoor dining, but they have fenced in a specific area. This will be north of that. It's roughly 50 by 25. And this would be used between 11 a.m. and 9 p.m., basically the hours of the restaurant, although depending on exactly what their internal operations are, they may have interior operations that go longer than this. They are proposing to have picnic tables that can seat up to 6 patrons per table. Now, the difference here, and something that staff is slightly concerned about, the area that they want to have kind of roped off, we would prefer them to actually put in something a little bit more permanent. Something that would delineate this area, especially considering, even though it's an elevation, it's elevated just like the previous patio. You do have parking stalls that come right up to this area, and we also want to make sure that people understand this is an outdoor dining area. This isn't just a waiting area. It would keep it clear because the door for the main entrance to the restaurant is right there. There's a sidewalk that goes up to it, and since this is requesting a permanent outdoor dining facility, we'd like something to look a little bit more permanent here. So we're suggesting that they include a sturdy fencing material to delineate this. Parking is unaffected by the proposal. No other changes to the building or lighting are proposed. However, if they do want to add outdoor lighting, they would have to go through the electrical inspector. And with that, there's a suggested motion for approval on the screen. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Would the applicant like to say anything before we start? Name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Daniel Newman, 1632 South Kuiper Lane, Mount Pleasant. I actually have a picture of the fence. It's not like a rope fence.
Yeah, that would, feel free to circulate it.
It's actually bolted to the concrete.
Is it kind of one of them thick ropes?
1-inch rope.
Yeah, like they use, you see them in nautical places and stuff like that.
That's exactly the rope it is.
Okay.
It's set back 5 feet from the beginning of the concrete, and there is a sidewalk between the parking blocks and the actual patio itself. Basically, all we're looking for is just to have outdoor seating at a restaurant.
Okay, great. Stand by. We'll go to the commission and see if we have any questions. Christine, you want to start us out?
Yes, I'm still concerned even you have that some separation because the parking is still close enough, and especially if it's also used by handicap and access. So there is not solid participation, separation, I should say.
There's roughly about 10 feet between the parking block and the rope fence. The handicap ramp is right on the outside of the fence. So in order for a handicapped person to access the patio, they'd have to go up right by the front door and then into the patio area.
So I guess my question is why you don't want to have a more usable fence, like more shielded?
Our goal was to keep it more open air, more so you're not secluded and people can see, people are eating outside.
But they're overseeing parking, they're not overseeing like a landscape or something more pretty,
True, but it was
So
just,
that would be my concern.
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have nothing.
Dawn.
Will you be having music outside?
Not at this time. The lot is open towards the rear. We were hoping to do something with that this year, but with nobody applying for jobs, we decided to put that off to next year. That would be a whole different section. This is literally just for outdoor dining.
But even recorded music?
No,
Nothing about, okay. Okay, thank you.
No speakers outdoor.
no.
Greg?
I have no concerns. It's nice to see the more permanent looking type rope than just having it roped off. I'm definitely a fan of outdoor seating, so I'm glad that you're proposing this. I was able to eat there finally for the first time a couple weeks ago. So nice to see some expansion there.
Chris?
This happens to be my district, and I've been there multiple times, and I love the food. I'm glad I support the outdoor dining also. I do. I see what you're trying to achieve with the openness of it, but I do understand the concerns from staff. But that's my comments.
Don?
Question for staff. You said you voiced your concerns, but there's not going to be a stipulation in the motion, correct? I didn't see one. To have some kind of more of a permanent structure fence.
That would be for plan commission to determine if you want to require that.
Okay. All right, I have no other questions. Thank you.
Okay. Fred?
Yeah, I just have a question about the lighting, outdoor lighting that you have in that area.
There, underneath the eaves, there are recessed lighting, and any lighting that we would just be like the string light bulbs, nothing permanent right now. We plan on closing it down at 9 o'clock, and during summer, you're light until 9, so no real cause for lighting.
Thank you.
Chauncey?
I do have a question for the applicant in regards to the roped off area. So this item that you're going to place there, can it potentially prevent vehicles from coming on the patio?
It is bolted to the ground, but it's only a 4x4 piece of wood with an inch rope connecting to it, so it would take a lot for a car to jump both the parking block and the curb before causing any damage.
Okay, thank you.
I guess don't have any concerns. I'm a fan of outside dining myself. I'm glad to see you're expanding and thinking big. I guess the thing for me, obviously the rope is the issue. But if you have the parking blocks and there's a curb, I'll let it go. I get it. If you decide this works, you'll probably upgrade that thing and do a more permanent patio in the end anyway. So, and I get it. It is a barbecue place, probably looking for a certain atmosphere, so to speak. So I'm okay with it. So if we could get a motion on 80.
Guzekowski will make a motion that the plan commission approves site and building plan submitted by Daniel Newman, Rollin Smoke LLC for the property at 10166 South 27th Street with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. 2, that plans for any exterior lighting, permanent or temporary, for the outdoor dining area shall be submitted for review for approval by electrical inspector and Department of Community Development prior to submission of permit applications. And 3, that all details, final plans, and are submitted in digital format to the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of permit applications.
Super seconds.
Question there before we proceed forward. Do we need to add a number 4 for the roped off section?
Unless the plan commission determines that they want to add that, and I'm not hearing anybody suggest that they want to include that.
Actually, Carrie, I was just going to ask, can we do a conditional approval? So if we approve, it's with the condition for them to add it.
The motion's been made without.
The motion has been made. Do you want to do a straw poll?
Well, it's been made and seconded, correct?
Right.
I don't think it's proper to take.
You can amend the motion.
Right.
That would be up to the person that did it.
That's correct. Before you take a vote, straw vote on how many would want to include an additional condition regarding the fence. I would.
Chandler.
One, two.
I think we need this on mic, please.
Excuse me?
I think we need this on mic.
On Mike.
Yep.
The following commissioners expressed the intent and desire to enhance the fencing. Commissioner Chandler and Commissioner Hannah.
Are there any others who wish to add?
At this time, I think the motion can stand as is, and we have a second on there. So roll call beginning with myself, Bukavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Hold aye.
Sleeper, aye.
Chandler, no.
And I know.
Sullivan, aye.
Bill, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Okay, good. Good luck.
Thank you.
That will get us to 8F, and that is plan review of site building and related plans submitted by Timothy Grayman, All-Star Buick GMC for outdoor storage and display of retail merchandise, parking lot expansion and signage at the property at 7020 77 South 27th Street. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some plan commissioners will recall that we had several reviews of these sites for the existing All-Star Buick GMC. Current zoning is in B4 district. It is also in an overlay district, and there is a conditional use permit that is attached to the main dealership property. And the reason I say main dealership property is because that conditional use permit for auto sales and service with a private car wash was approved April 17th, 2018. And there was a condition within that conditional use permit that if the corner property that was owned by Wisdot was ever acquired, they would have to combine these two properties and work with the city to determine a gateway treatment. The plans that were approved April 24th, 2018 and March 26th, 2019 did not include this parcel, so that's why it's before you right now. They did acquire the property in November of 2019, but that was by quitclaim deed, and they have not yet submitted a CSM to combine these properties, so that is in the conditions should the Plan Commission wish to approve this. They do need to combine these properties by CSM. There is one other condition. The conditional use permit does need to include this property, so it would have to be amended to incorporate the property as part of the overall approval to have the outdoor display as well as be part of the dealership. And that's also because there's not allowed in the B4 district parking as a primary use of a property. So there's a couple of things going on, and we would just have to have all the process in place before final approvals could be in place for this particular proposal. The proposal is for a vehicle display area, related signage, and a parking lot addition that we'll talk about. So again, these are the approved plans. I put the landscaping on there for you. And we're talking about that corner parcel, so it would have to be incorporated into the overall plans. And these are the existing conditions out there. The reason that we have this photo in here is because it's the most recent representation of what the properties look like now. On the corner, you'll note is that kind of corner street furniture. That is part of the overall 27th Street corridor plan. That's a joint effort with the cities of Oak Creek and Franklin and Wisdot. Those street furnishings were put in place a few years ago after several years of planning. So that's going to remain there for the foreseeable future. And we need to make sure that these plans incorporate that street furniture, because it's not going anywhere at this point. We would have to go through some amendments that would include the city of Franklin and Wisdot to talk about whether or not that could be moved, removed, or changed in some way. On the screen right now is the proposed, and again, I put up landscape plans. The proposal for the outdoor display area, they call them a vignette on landscaped cliffs. So those landscaped cliffs can be anywhere up to 7 to 10 feet above grade. And they are proposing, at least in this image, up to 16 vehicles that could be displayed on top of those quote-unquote cliffs. Behind that, it would be an access drive and parking for up to, looks like 46 vehicles, depending on what plan you look at. They're also proposing on the waterfall feature on this landscape area, logo signage. We don't have any details for those signs, unfortunately, so they're not included as part of this review. It's just for information only, and likely they would need to have variances due to the overall signage that is currently on the dealership. There's also included a City of Oak Creek monument sign on the Rawson Avenue side, and staff is not in support of that at this time. It's not in the correct location for gateway signage. We don't have any details that go to the top of the sign. Again, it would probably require some kind of variance. There would have to be coordination with the state and county for location, potentially. And also, there is a concern for a city logo to be incorporated into a private development. Also not included, although it was included in the proposal, is a bus shelter with Oak Creek signage. Some of the same concerns with the monument sign are same with the bus shelter. Staff is not supporting the bus shelter at this time, although we generally do support bus shelters. We've not had an opportunity to work with WISDOT or MCTS to discuss this particular proposal. We also do not believe that the bus shelter should incorporate the City of Oak Creek logo. Parking lots, and particularly vehicle parking and display along Rawson Avenue, were of particular concern when these plans were reviewed for the dealership back in 2018. As such, there was extensive landscaping that was required, and I can go back to that site plan, around that southern parking lot on Rawson Avenue. In fact, we were also working with the applicant both on the Rawson Avenue side and the 27th Street side for screening up the parking to some extent through the use of stone retaining walls that had planter toppings. So there would be this kind of this stone wall that curves on one side, and also straight on the 27th Street parking area that would have vegetation on top, just to kind of soften that area. And while staff don't have any objection to the concept, there are a lot of concerns that we have for this proposal. As I mentioned before, the display is on top of this rock wall, which they are referring to as cliffs. And in some cases, they're showing this to be 7 to 10 feet off the sidewalk, meaning 7 to 10 feet above. And it's really difficult to tell from the plans that have been submitted exactly how close to the sidewalk it gets. There is a requirement for all parking to be set back at least 10 feet from all public rights of way. So one of the comments that we have is that this should be pulled back a little bit. Because while the cars themselves, the vehicles themselves may be 10 feet from the right of way, we have things that are shown either landscape features or water features or stone features that are pushed up right to the property boundary, and in some cases maybe right up to the sidewalk. We have submitted these plans for WISDOT review. I believe they've also been submitted for county review since 27th Street is under WISDOT jurisdiction. Rawson Avenue is under Milwaukee County jurisdiction. We've not yet received comments, so staff would like to get those comments so that they can be incorporated into these plans as well. As I mentioned, no setbacks have been identified here, so we do need to have those identified on the plans to make sure that we have everything meeting the letter of the conditional use permit. In the overlay district requirements that were part of that conditional use review, and indeed as part of the site plan review for the dealership, parking areas are to be located to the side or to the rear of buildings. This is pushing a vehicle display and parking area even closer to the rights of way in front of the building. So there are concerns that this is kind of going against the intent of the overlay district in that area as well. And while that parking for 46 vehicles, which is a formal parking area, may meet all those setback requirements, it's unclear how these parking stalls and the landscaping for them are going to be coordinated with the existing landscaping for the existing parking out there. It's just not shown. So there's no clear indication of how that approved landscape plan is going to be affected by this parking. We also have not received lighting plans, so staff cannot make any comments as to, whether or not the proposed light poles or the uplighting for the vehicle display areas are acceptable. The electrical inspector has not had an opportunity to review anything because we've not received anything. In addition to the comments that I've already made, the staff concerns go further into the proper siting and maintenance of this proposed area. It could be fantastic. However, we need to talk about exactly how this is going to be maintained. We need to make sure that all those setbacks and safety requirements are in place. And it is quite a lot. We have to have integration with the existing infrastructure, as I mentioned, that's street furniture. Until we receive, some kind of support from all parties involved, that's not going anywhere. And this orientation is to the corner where that street furniture is currently located. Staff have consistently expressed concerns anytime anyone in the city proposes outdoor display and storage, especially of retail merchandise or inventory merchandise. So staff is consistent in expressing that concern with this proposal. In terms of the display and outdoor storage, we do have to bring up that we had a similar proposal that came before the Plan Commission, and albeit held, for a vehicle display area that did not have staff support and did not seem to have Plan Commission support either. In this case, the proposal is much larger, and it's on a much more prominent gateway corner rather than along the freeway. And I will give you the rest of the plans. All comments have been stated. These are the renderings for that proposed corner without the existing street furniture. This is the bus shelter that staff is not in support of at this time. It may be something that we bring back in the future. And this is the location along Rawson Avenue, again, with that Oak Creek signage that staff is not in support of as well. Within the staff report, we mentioned we do not support the proposal. There are two options. If the Plan Commission wishes to hold this so that these plans can be revised, so that we can discuss and bring before the Plan Commission a certified survey map and a conditional use permit amendment to bring those properties into compliance, you can do that. Or you can present the suggested motion for consideration with the conditions that we presented. Mr. Mayor.
Oh, thank you, Carrie. Quite a bit. Applicants, you guys are here, obviously. Come on up if you got something to say before we go to commission. It's quite a bit.
Hello, Mayor and Commissioners.
Name and address.
My name is Ron Islip, and I'm from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, 3819 North 8th Street. And the team we have here, Mike, would you introduce yourself?
Mike Davis, Insight Landscape Design, Wauwatosa.
Jim Hansen with Gray from Milwaukee.
And Tim Grayman with Boylan Auto Group.
So what I'd like to, and you're right, Mayor, that was a mouthful. There's a whole lot of considerations, and I appreciate Carrie doing her due diligence.
Oh, there you go.
Is that better? Yep. I appreciate Carrie doing due diligence on bringing up all the concerns. First of all, I'd like to say that the CSM is in process, and that will be finished right around the 29th. We're aware that that's part of the conditions. And what I wanted to bring up is that our intent was to have an artistic model out there as a display, not anything that, okay, this is just a truck display. So we thought of this as a destination place, where it's going to have some artistic rock features, a water feature in there, and we are aware of all the setbacks, and we will make sure that we adhere to all those. And when we're talking about some of the things that were brought up, as far as the heights, and looking at, I think we've got one at about 8 feet from the sidewalk, but it's set back about 25 feet. So is it anything that's going to be towering over that anybody's walking by? So there's a bunch of the features that we talked about. What our intent is to try to work with the city to try to blend and make this corner a destination place, a artistic presentation of Oak Creek. Now, if that means that we need to combine the existing feature that's there, and that's why we had possibly suggested having some alternate signage. So we want to be able to work with the city to make sure that this is a very tastefully done, not just a truck display vignette, so that we can be able to display our product, but work with the city and make sure that we're adhering to all the features that make this something that everybody can be proud of. Uplighting, if we do have we like to think of the parking that's behind there. It's not parking, it's storage. It's more part of the display, whatever light is requiring, in order to meet the requirements. Along with, we had planned on some uplighting on the waterfall feature that wouldn't blend into the street, but that would add some amenities to the artistic view of what we were proposing. So I'm sure you guys have lots of questions. So we've got our team here that they can answer anything you might have.
Okay. With that, I guess, I'll just kind of state a few things and, all transparency. I did have a car appointment out there on Friday by coincidence. I went in there for service. So I did walk the site. I do agree that this is probably one of the most prominent quarters in Oak Creek. And when we put the dealership in, we expected a first-class dealership without a doubt. We do have some complications there. Carrie mentioned the 27th Street plan. It's been in effect for a long time with Franklin, so we do have to take a lot of things into consideration. I do agree with you. If we're going to have a car dealership, we want to have the best damn car dealership in the area, without a doubt. We have to figure out the corner in any way, shape, or form. Some of the things Carrie mentioned, just to reiterate, we do have that bench and whatever we put in for streetscaping. Carrie will bring it up. We got to figure that thing out first. There's no sense sticking that kind of money into it with that thing in front of it. So that has to be worked out along with the city of Franklin. Bus stop at the county. As I walked it, I'm sure there's right-of-ways in there because we have stop and go lights there. We have sewers going that way. Is there any, and Brian, has anybody talked to Brian Johnston about, are there water main, is there anything in there for easements that we need off that corner? That's one of our main corners. I'm sure we have water going up to Franklin through there.
I'll defer to Matt, but I believe that the mains themselves are actually under the sidewalk and in the street.
Okay.
With conversations with the water and sewer, they didn't have any concerns.
Oh, they did. Oh, okay. That's positive. That's a step in the right direction. Again, some of the setbacks, I think we're going to need staff to partner up and take some harder looks at some things. And then again, usually we kind of don't proceed ahead without making sure the county and the state was mentioned as well, correct? Because we're on State Highway alternate 241. So Lori, anything to add that way? Nothing. So just some observations. I do really like the concept. If we're going to have a car dealership, as I said, let's have the best car dealership we can, without a doubt. Stormwater is another thing. I don't, Matt, maybe you can help out. How does this work as we add impervious, or is it pavers? What does this do to the overall plan?
Mayor, if we could have Jim respond to that.
Want to take this, Jim?
Okay, sure. So the
it was fully developed in the past. We know what that corner retail, and now it's been grassed over for a certain amount of time. I've been talking to Phil Biermeister about this a couple times, how they would view this. It's going to be considered to be an existing grass green property, so we're adding impervious land over it. So with MMSD rules, if you're adding between 5,000 square feet and a half acre of land, you need to install some green infrastructure. So that could be permeable pavement. It could be bioswales. If you have a building, there's green roofs. There's a whole number of things you could do for green infrastructure. So we're under a half acre of additional impervious. So we fall under that first trigger to do some amount of green infrastructure per MMSD. And we do have that proposed on the far east bank of 6 stalls. We've done the calculations that are in the application packet that we meet the MMSD requirements with some permeable pavement, and it does drain then to the existing storm sewer system.
Okay, thank you, Chad. Anything to add, Matt, from city's perspective? No? Okay. I'm kind of running my mouth and hogging up the thing here. I'll let the commissioners weigh in. Commissioner Hannah, you want to start us off?
I have no questions.
Okay. Commissioner Sullivan.
I guess I only have some comments. One, we have to be considerate on some of our past views on display. We talked about this through engineering and our staff, and one of the things that we recognized right away was the immense amount, which we appreciate the effort. Toning it down a little bit might help with some staff, being able to accept it a little bit more. So we're looking at that a little bit. We do understand that this is a corner that has to be developed under a car dealership. So like you said, Mayor, going with something tasteful and something that's inviting and really has that wow factor. I think, the thought and the concept is there. The extent might be a little bit too much with 15 vehicles being displayed, all the parking, things along those lines. I think that's working with staff and the commission to come to some kind of understanding on where everything needs to be. With the CSM coming on June 29th, I think, holding it or working towards getting everything in line, working with DOT and figuring out all of the logistics to make sure that when we come back to look at it, it's a smooth discussion instead of 12 different conditions. It seems to be pretty large. So outside of that, the concept is there. Mm-hmm. I think it's a good idea. I think the maintenance part that would have to be discussed. I drove around the city today looking at things. There's a lot of places where they don't maintain, and it looks great from the start, and 5 years later, it doesn't look so well. So, that has to be in consideration too.
Oh, you're right.
Can we address what we?
Sure, go ahead.
I have a couple things that Carrie brought up and some of the commissioners might be thinking or brought up. First and foremost, I think we didn't have quite all the information from a site standpoint when we came up with the concept. So we understand that this thing's going to slide back a little bit. And we may lose a vignette or two right out of the chute, because once you push it back, the legs of the triangle, it changes. It is that as well. So we've adjusted the size of we originally had a larger, lower pond area, just from a volume standpoint, because we wanted to have a dramatic waterfall as part of the gateway feature that we wanted to put here for the city, as well as have something that's very nice for the dealership. The intent from a maintenance standpoint is to be maintained very well. There's a lot of plant material going in. It is not tall plant material because, again, hiding the vehicles that are on display is kind of counterproductive. But the outcropping artistry work will screen all the vehicles that are behind, for the most part, from the intersection. As you go away from the corner, the design concept is that everything tapers down to grade. And some of those individual vignette platforms undulate in height a bit here and there. But again, when the design was from the corner of the parcel, that further, or the most prominent corner vignette was 6'8" above at the boundary corner. And whatever happens On the city property beyond that, we can't control the grading from there. The vignettes themselves will be illuminated with low voltage lighting, and et cetera. That way it's all going to have glare shields on them and pointed at the vehicles. There won't be any lighting pointing into the right of way. The lighting for the interior lot would be consistent with the rest of the vehicle of the parking field. Same fixtures, same heights, following all the photometric guidelines, and the photometric plan and lighting plan would be submitted. We can provide photometrics of the low voltage plant material as well if one would require that. As far as any mechanicals, electrical pumps, there's actually going to be a vault, Bilco doors. It's all going to be stored below grade and locked, and then that also will be screened with plant material. So that's one from vandalism standpoint, and two, we just didn't want to see it. You don't want to see it, and the dealership didn't want to see it either. So that's kind of that. And the work from the stones, these are actually people that are doing this actually do, this is artistry. These are people that do work for Disney. This is probably unlike the quality that this hasn't been around here. I mean, they do zoo displays, they travel all over the world and do that, and they're doing this. So the people that will be doing this are artists and crafts persons, not just a concrete laborer slapping things up. This is a whole different animal, and it's kind of hard to, project that and tell you that, but it's a completely different level of work. And we understand that, there's a fair amount there. So, and then you got to get your arms around it to understand what the intent is. And that's why we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. One more.
Yeah.
As far as the signage goes, these were kind of just, we're not sure how you react to us removing or asking the corner pieces to be removed. So we thought about providing more signage, welcome to the city, with the monument sign and a bus stop with signage on it. We're more than happy to put a sign separate from the bus stop. Doesn't have to have signage. These are just concepts. Changing the location of the monument sign, more of a city standard. From that's something we're not opposed to doing at all. That's pretty easy to deal with. This we're just kind of like, we're going to take this away. We want to give you something that's nicer and better and more kind of a thing, because we're asking for something right at the corner, and you've got something there already. And that's pretty much that. Sorry.
Thank you, Mike. Glad you understand that, there's a little bit more work to be done there. So, between you and staff on that. Is that it, Matt? Okay, Dawn?
It looks really cool. Of course, there's quite a few things that need to be done with the staff. I went and also visited the area, and across the street from this proposal is a small little Franklin sign. Welcome to Franklin. I'm like, oh, our side would be so much better. But also we need to get everything in line. So I would be for it, but probably would vote to hold it just till we get everything ready.
Okay.
So I also really like the look of it, like the concept. This is in my district. If I remember back correctly to when we were discussing this property, I do believe that the commission made it clear that this is a gateway corner, and we were really hoping for some Oak Creek signage. So I appreciate the bus stop and the monument sign being placed in there. I personally would like a little closer to the corner, not the far reaches of the plan. But again, I realize it's a business. We're not expecting the whole corner to be given to the city. I don't know if any way it could be incorporated into the rock wall, both the all-star signage and some type of Oak Creek signage. I'm not a designer, so I don't know. I do think that there's a lot of cars on display. Again, I realize you need to get the most bang for your money, but it would be nice to see some of the actual displayed cars decreased a little if they can be. It sounds like you already addressed the distance to the sidewalk and things of that nature. I'm not too concerned if the display in fact does block the lot. I'm not too concerned with the lot being filled as it appears in the picture. But I do think that there needs to be some work with staff to address their concerns. So, but thank you for the work so far.
I think that this is a big change for this corner. And I think the number of cars is what has me right now. I think from my perspective that there's too many cars on display. That's kind of my primary focus. I do like the fact that you are trying to bring a waterfall there, and I think that certainly dresses up the corner. So that is, I appreciate you looking at making that corner value added for sure. And your attempts with the bus stop and the Oak Creek signs. So that's really my big things. I think really the crux of it is the number of cars for me.
Is that it, Chris? Yeah.
And excuse me. You can just leave. I'm kind of on the same lines with like Greg and Matt. Definitely got some good ideas. Thanks, Fred. And but when you start seeing conditions getting up towards a dozen, it just kind of makes the plan review sloppy. And I trust our staff, and I think they have some concerns, but overall, I think we're in the right direction here. I personally would not feel comfortable on the spot, the plan commission determining how many cars, because I'm not necessarily saying that many is bad, but I'm not also going to say, well, there needs to be 8 or it needs to be 10, or I would need to see a couple of plans. Number 4, when you're talking about setbacks, that's something that I think just needs to be worked out before we start voting and making a condition. That's kind of just basic stuff. So I think this can be cleaned up. I think you can work stuff out. I do like, because there is not a bus stop structure there now, correct?
No, there is not. And actually, that's not part of this review at this time, because again, we need to work with WSDOT and MCTS before we can even present something like that to the Plan Commission.
Yep. And then I appreciate the good faith effort with the sign and the bus stop. I think it's a good idea. There's a lot that needs to be just pared down and worked out. I'm comfortable when staff is comfortable, and doesn't look like they're 100% comfortable, but just work it out, and I think we can get it done.
Ed? I think it's a great concept. I like it, but I think it's a little overkill. I think we need to downsize it a little bit and move back at least 30, 40 feet from the road or from the edge of the road. I think if you just put too much in there, people are going to have a hard time visualizing all of it and absorb it as they drive by. You know, they may want to stop and look for a second, and it's a bad corner because it's an intersection. So there's a few things. The city sign is another thing. It's the entrance to Oak Creek. You'd like to have some signage that kind of appeals to the city of Oak Creek. And I know you're working on it. The bus stop is a concern too. I'm thinking that that's a congested corner, and all of a sudden have a bus stop in that area could create a little problem. It probably have to be back at least 200 or 300 feet from the corner back and not right in front of the dealership. You want to keep the traffic moving to get into your facility and get out of it. You start parking a bus periodically on that 27th Street, could be a problem. It could be moved back. But I can see the interest of the staff that they have a number of things, but we're trying to work together and come to a positive conclusion. And there's still a few questions that are hanging out there. I know you can do it. I have confidence. It's just that you have to make sure that staff is in agreement with it and the commission. So.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just a couple of clarification points. The bus stop is already there. What we're talking about is a shelter. And I'd like to just remove that from everybody's plate right now. We're not going to talk about the bus shelter until we've had a conversation with MCTS and with STOP. So the stop is there, it's going to remain there. The shelter itself, more nuanced, not for tonight's discussion. That's why it wasn't included in the presentation before the Plan Commission. And as far as the signage is concerned, that's a longer conversation that needs to occur too. I hear what the Plan Commission is saying, and I hear what the original intent for that corner was to be. However, we do still have concerns that putting the City of Oak Creek signage with a private development may have some implications to it, shall we say. So while we can continue to have those conversations, I think we should take all signage off the table for tonight's discussion, just understanding that it's a longer discussion that needs to happen.
Great.
Okay.
Fred, or no?
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm done.
Oh, okay.
We've covered it pretty much with the rest of the members.
Chauncey?
I do have a question, but Carrie, I'll start with you. So when you identify taking signage off the table, does that also include the signage with the cars that's on the rock wall? Is that?
It's a little bit difficult to discuss signage in general because we don't have all the details for all of the proposed signage. So I think there's a conversation that needs to happen between staff and the applicants because this is conceptual at this point. Once we get those details, we can certainly bring it back to the Plan Commission. It's going to have to come back to the Plan Commission in some way, shape, or form. Once we get those details, but as far as signage overall, yes, let's just take it off the discussion table until we get those details for consideration.
Okay, thank you. And then I do have a question for the applicant in regards to the lighting on the rock wall. Can you give a little more detail about that?
I can respond to both questions. We've kind of discussed that the signage, any signage would be a separate submittal, whether submitted separately or at the same time. So we can parse those things out. But from a lighting standpoint, the displays themselves will be with mostly ground mounted low voltage lighting with shields, and most likely to be with frosted covers and things of that nature. There will not be any pole lights or even 3-foot bollards or anything to that effect. There's going to be there'll probably be a light fixture or two in the pond itself shining up the face of the waterfall, so the waves coming down, the falls coming down will get illuminated at night. There'll be some wall washing fixtures that kind of wash the wall at night, because as we know in Wisconsin, we go to work in the dark and come and go home in the dark, so we might as well take advantage of some of that as well. But it's all going to be, the overwhelming majority is all ground mounted stuff pointing inward to the site. There'll be nothing pointed outward.
Okay. And another question in regards to landscaping. So the rendering that we see here, we see an area that's, you have rock around it and your flowers on the inside. So will that be all around?
Well, the rendering, there's a little bit of a disconnect with the landscape plan. The actual pond edge will not have a rock ring or around it. It's going to be all plant material and a landscape bed buffer between the edge of the lower pond. And there'll be some whether natural or artisan created boulders there as a consistency, but the overwhelming majority of that pond edge is going to look natural, but it's going to have a significant landscape buffer between that edge and any mowed turf. That's the intent. So there's no foot traffic. And we also understand that it's going to slide back from the corner. So again, there'll be even more of a buffer there. But there's not going to be a seat wall there or a trip hazard there from a hard surface or outcropping or anything of that nature.
Oh, okay, so just more so plants and.
Yes, ma'am.
Boulders, okay. And then for the waterfall, will that area have kind of a small rock wall, or what would prevent maybe people from getting into or connecting with the waterfall? Is there some area?
Well, it's not unlike what you have out in front of the city. You know, you've got a water feature. This pond will not be 8 feet deep. It's going to be rather shallow, and there'll be storage underneath it where the majority of the water is going to be that circulates through. So there's not, it's not something that, you know, the intent is not to have, you know, swimming in it or anything of that nature. It's going to be pulled back. It's, you know, not unlike what's out in front of the building here.
Okay, so how tall will this be? Maybe 12 inches?
I'm sorry, what tall?
You're saying this pond, it won't be a place.
Well, the pond is going to be the lower pond is at grade. The upper pond that the water flows out of will be, it's going to be somewhere, the vehicles that in this picture here, the elevation where the tires are on the tallest center are 6 feet 8 from the lower pond rim. So then the upper bowl is about 5 feet elevated above the lower bowl. And that's to get the waterfall effect.
What's the depth, Mike?
Again, the you know, 12 inches tops.
Okay. Thank you.
Certainly.
You know, I kind of stated it again. I was out there. Fortunately, I got to walk it. And, you know, if you go back to that display, it's a little deceiving on the size of the corner. It's not that huge. And granted, if you go to any other car dealership up and down 27th Highway 100, you will see cars parked fender to fender and they're right out at the sidewalk, without a doubt. This is a way, you know, I mean, we're walking at 16 cars here, 15 cars, whatever the number winds up, as Don said. They'll determine that with staff. This is a far greater plan than what you see at most car dealerships. You know, with the cars spread out and the plan they got going on. Again, I think we're on the right track. And as Don said, I trust our staff. They are the best in the land, without a doubt. And we never started, no, we'll figure it out. And Commissioner Sullivan said it, when we have 12 conditions, it's a lot to overcome and take that leap of faith. So one of the commissioners suggested a hold. I think that's probably the way to go, and continue with staff and wrap this up neatly and come through here. I think everybody wants to see it done. It's just how we get there. It's just how we get there, guys. Yes, sir.
And on behalf of ownership, we're on the same plate with you guys. We want to make sure that we put something there that you guys enjoy and we enjoy. So we kind of put something out there to say, here's what we're thinking. And we appreciate your comments, and we'll come back and incorporate all those. Because the goal is both sides have to be happy.
Yeah, our goal is not to engineer it here.
Right.
Engineer it through this.
No, absolutely. We just threw something in there.
And that guy down there.
That was our idea, and we'll take all your comments, we'll incorporate it. Our goal is to get it done, and we know we need the help of the city and the plan commission, so we're open-handed team players here.
Appreciate it, Tim. And, you know, and you're on the right track. I mean, you know, the MMSD stuff, you guys already had some of the real hard stuff, it seems like, worked out. You know, if you were already dealing with Phil and you're going through there, you're on the right track, because that guy's really good at what he does. So, look, again, I do like the concept. As I said, I mean, you can go up and down 27th or Highway 100, and that's what they do. They display product, but they're fender to fender. Without a doubt, they're using every square inch of parking, and it's a little different. I can't think of a lot of places where they incorporate it quite like this. Maybe way up on Good Hope Road, they tried it for a while.
This is unique.
Yeah, very unique. So we'll keep going at it, though. Of course, we'll have to make a motion. So, guys, do you have any further questions of us? Yes, sir. Before we move on. Then again, commissioners, it's up to you, but I would recommend a hold. And Carrie, in the motion to hold, do we want to put in a definitive date? No. Okay.
Just do a motion to hold, and when everything is ready to come back to the plan commission, we'll bring it back to the plan commission.
Okay. Everybody okay with that? Okay. Motion from somebody, please?
Seifert moves to put the project on hold until the concerns are settled with our planning.
Commissioner Seifert,
Yep.
you just need to do a motion to hold. You don't need to try any.
I just.
You're good. Motion to hold.
I thought I'd give a little detail.
You don't have to give a detail on a hold. It's all right. Just motion to hold is fine.
Oracle second.
Roll call, starting with Chris.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, I.
Anna, I.
Sullivan, aye.
Willow, I.
Oric, aye.
Bukavich, aye. Guys, again, continue to work with them. It looks great. And, again, we can't put that beautiful thing in with the benchscape we got going on there. That thing's got to go. So we'll figure it out. Thank you. Before we move to adjourn, Dawn, it's Farmers Market Week. I'm going to give you some time with that one.
It is the Farmers Market Week. I'm here this Saturday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Drexel Town Square.
Cool, that was a quick commercial. Okay. From there, we'll look for a motion to adjourn. Oh, before we do, thank you, staff. Long meeting, very well prepared again. And again, this is tough. We get a plan like that and a lot of moving pieces, presented very well. And again, we'll figure it all out. Yeah. And commissioners, good job. Very good tonight. Thank you. Okay, Dawn?
Grillo moves to adjourn at 7:37.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call, starting with Don.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, I.
Anna, I.
Sullivan, aye.
Willow, I.
Oric, aye.
David Chai.
Guzekowski, aye.
For the record, O'Donnell voted aye.
Excellent. Good night, everybody. Thank you.